We sound so old right
Yeah,
now.
no, I kind of love it.
I do too. This is lead into it. Who cares?
Stop shooting
Stop
threes and
shooting.
feed the post.
Pump fake, damn it.
Make an injury pass.
On today's episode of Titus and Tate, we will be doing a crash course of college basketball. Here's the idea. The Super Bowl happened last night, Tate. It's Monday night. As always, we're recording on Monday night. The Super Bowl was played last night on the fine network of Fox. Did you see that the Super Bowl had 102 million viewers?
I did see this.
4 straight years of declining ratings until this year. It's going up.
We're
the
back.
Titus and Tate bump, is it happening?
I think so. I guess we'll take credit for it.
I tweeted before the game, everybody, check out the Super Bowl on Fox tonight. Mm-hmm. And I'm not taking all the credit, but it makes you think. It makes you think. I don't know.
Maybe a hat tip.
Yeah,
that's all you need.
I want at
HT
Fox
Club Trillion. Thank you for the support. 102 million. Who would have thought? Fox Sports, we do it again. Super Bowl, baby. I guess we can say Super Bowl in this program.
We can,
hopefully.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I actually do not know that.
Yeah, the big game. The big old game.
We better rein that in. We're a little too cocky about what we can and can't say. So here's the deal. The Super Bowl's played. A lot of people. There's nothing else in the world of sports, Tate, coming up next down the pike. So a lot of people are tuning into college basketball for the first time because you're looking at the sports calendar. The Masters are on the horizon.
Yes.
But before the Masters,
March Madness.
Yes. Is it? That's it. The NBA playoff. No one cares. I mean, the NBA All-Star game, I guess, next week.
Yeah, in Chicago.
All right, fine.
Yeah, people maybe care about that. Yeah.
Cool. But otherwise, it's us. It's our time to shine. It is officially our time. A lot of people have told us that listen to this podcast that they don't follow a second of college basketball. They just like to hear us BS with one another, which we really appreciate. But it also makes
we
our
also
jobs.
listen to it too.
Yeah.
So we're here and we have to watch all these games, which is a lot more BS than us.
So all of those people are going to be tuning in right now, Tate. Mm-hmm. They are coming to us. They're saying, Titus, Tate, explain to me what I've missed in the world of college basketball.
Well, can we explain? Like, I can't even explain it. Can we explain what usually happens this time of the year?
Yeah.
People come to us and they say, okay, football is done. And for the past 3 years, I've been working football. So usually I would leave football and then come right into you and say, Mark, where's the cream and where is it rising?
Right.
And is it at the top yet? And you would say, yes, the cream is rising. Zion Williamson is the best player in college basketball.
My cream is rising as I watch Zion.
I'm watching Zion and the cream is rising.
We'll do our best to give a lay of the land. We'll explain it later. But yeah, we just want to do a broad picture thing, and it all makes sense in a little bit.
We think.
But first,
Woody Durham.
All right, it is Monday night in Los Angeles. We just got done watching your North Carolina Tar Heels. How would you describe that performance, Tate?
I would say that Florida State has one of the best home court advantages in all of college basketball, right? I think they're 57-4 over the past 3 seasons. Shout out to Brian Ives. He put that out there.
I was going to say, I follow Brian Ives on Twitter as well.
People have seen that. So Florida State, again, not a great year for this team, or not a great team, but a great year for this team, I would say, with Florida State. So a nice win at home, what you'd expect from Leonard Hamilton, and congratulations, Leonard Hamilton. Let's deflect. And
you're just talking
about Florida
all
State.
about Florida State.
Yeah, love the Seminoles.
Good
game from Patrick Williams.
Was there any hope whatsoever that when Cole Anthony came back, you might be able to make a tournament run?
In a word,
or run to the tournament. I shouldn't say tournament run. Yeah,
nay.
You never thought that was a thing.
Any which way you could put it, absolutely not. Because at the beginning of the year, we remember this. We talked about North Carolina. They beat Notre Dame in a game that now seems so far removed from reality right now, where Cole Anthony had an amazing game, and I think he ended up having 35 points. He still gets the points. We just don't get the results as North Carolina fans. And for anyone out there that thinks, oh, I don't know, Cole Anthony or Kobe White, like what is the argument? What is the comparison? Cole Anthony and Kobe White are so far apart and removed, in my mind, talent-wise right now, that I can't even really fathom it. Because one guy was supposed to be Zion 2.0, but at the point guard position, and one guy was supposed to be overrated guy from North Carolina that somehow had this scoring record. And one of them now is a star for the Chicago Bulls, and the other one, again, is on the North Carolina team that lost to Boston College on Saturday in a very ugly game, and again lost tonight to Florida State. But can we get away from this? Can we talk
Yeah,
about something else?
I will say,
Yeah.
to be fair to you, because people get upset whenever we talk about Carolina too much.
It's supposed to be a crash
you
course.
You never
Yeah.
want to talk about Carolina.
No.
I'm always the one that brings it up. So yeah, we just were watching the game. They were giving Florida State a good run there, and then they couldn't make a basket for 11 straight minutes.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
We also watched Baylor take care of business against Kansas State, won by 6. That Baylor team is humming. They're what is it, the 3rd week in a row? Are they're the first team to be ranked number 1 for 3 straight weeks in this season?
And again,
which is
the
crazy.
cream. Where is it?
Yeah, where's the
it
cream?
rising?
Show me your
Because
cream.
Everyone keeps looking at Scott Drew and this Baylor team. They're like, this has to be the team. This is the year. This is the people that we're going to point to and say, oh, Baylor's that team. But we still.
Well, let's do the broad picture here for all the people that
please.
are just now tuning in. So Baylor, as you might have noticed, is the number 1 team in the country for the 3rd straight week. How we got here is this: Baylor, they deserve it. That's if that is jarring to you, I guess that speaks to the season we've arrived at college basketball. You're asking yourself, what makes Baylor so good? They play great defense. They have great guards. They have very versatile lineups. They get after it, man to man. They're a meat grinder of a team. Like you watch, like tonight, Kansas State was just hanging around, and then Baylor kind of extends the lead to 12 or 13, and then Kansas State chips back. But it felt like Baylor was in control at all times. That's kind of how all their games go. They don't have a single guy that will probably play in the NBA. This is part of the problem with this whole season of college basketball. Like if I was to ask you, Tate, right now, career professional salary playing basketball, professional basketball salary, career earnings, Baylor's entire current roster or James Wiseman, who's going to make more money? The entire Baylor roster.
Everyone's looking
including
around. Probably James Wiseman.
I'd even throw
Probably
Scott.
the number 1
I'd
pick.
even throw Scott Drew the rest of his career from this point on as a coach into that.
Now that you say that, Scott Drew is going to be making millions and millions of dollars. So maybe.
Which isn't. I don't say that to discredit Baylor. Say Baylor's not a good team because we're college basketball guys. So to us, the distinction is largely irrelevant in the sense that like we do appreciate great college teams that don't necessarily have a ton of NBA talent. Like a great example, one of my favorite all-time college basketball teams is the 2014 Florida team, where Scottie Wilbekin was the best player. I love that team. I will defend that team to anybody. If you weren't paying attention to that team, you'd be like, you go look up on like Sports Reference or whatever. You're like, that team sucked. They're overrated. But I watched them all year. I love them. So I don't get caught up in the lack of talent. What I'm saying is I'm speaking to the neutral fans, the people that are tuning in after the Super Bowl, are going to watch this Baylor team and say, who do I get excited about? And yes, Jared Butler is fun. Maceo Teague is fun. Davion Mitchell's fun. But Freddie Gillespie's fun. They're all fun to us. I don't think they're fun to a neutral guy that wants the basically the Zion people, the people that are like,
exactly.
give me Zion, give me more Zion.
They want to point to someone and say, okay, that's the guy who is the guy in college basketball, and he's on a team that has a chance to win, which is the Zion factor, something we've seen.
Yeah,
every single year we've seen a group of 5-star McDonald's All-Americans kind of come in and become stars all of a sudden and kind of fit in and mold themselves within a team. But now, to sort of put it in the one-and-done era right now is like Nick Richards, who's in his 3rd year as a one-and-done guy, is now an SEC Player of the Year
3rd year
candidate.
one-and-done.
Yes, exactly. Like, in his 3rd try at being a one-and-done, he's finally, this would have been his 3rd strike. He's finally figured it out. You know what I mean? And that I feel like in college basketball this year, it's a chance to make that run. We just watched Texas play against Kansas, and Matt Coleman looks like one of the best point guards in college basketball.
And he might be. Who knows?
And he's a junior, and he's at Texas. And 2 years ago when he was with Mo Bamba and those guys, he was an afterthought. And now you're like, oh yeah, Matt Coleman is a really good player. That's where we are. A lot of guys that I guess were down here, maybe mid-tier guys, are now top-tier guys. And we have to adjust. And you just mentioned Baylor. Like, I'm looking at the 1950, Final Four, and it has, like, Bradley in it. It just feels
all
like
these posters we have in here.
Yeah, all these posters we have in here. And it just seems like of a bygone era. You know what I mean? And then I look up, and Baylor, this would be the first time they've won the Big 12 since 1950. So we're in a new bygone
There weren't
era.
even 12 teams in 1950. I don't mean in the Big 12. I mean in the country.
Yeah,
There were like 8. And
Baylor was like the one
That's
Baptist
crazy.
school. They were like, you can play. You and Wake Forest, you can play. So that's where we are. I think it's like it's almost a readjustment.
Yeah.
If anything.
So how did we get here? We got here this way. Well, we'll start with the Blue Bloods because that's where everyone wants to start. If you just tune in,
what happened to my Blue Bloods?
Give me Carolina and Duke, and who actually play on Saturday. Give me your Kentucky, Kansas. These are names I'm familiar with. I'm sure they are at least kind of good, right? The answer to that is no. Carolina is historically bad. This is a very, 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 very bad North
The
Carolina
worst
team.
offensive team since 1957-58 as far as points per possession.
For Carolina or just in all of college basketball?
In all of college basketball, yes. I think since Bradley in 1957-1958.
Yeah, like the worst team of all time. Carolina is very, very, very bad.
Yes.
You have Duke, who what's Duke currently ranked now? Where did they end up? I didn't see the new poll.
They're like 6, right? 5th or 6, yeah.
Somewhere in there. It doesn't matter.
Cusp,
Duke's in the top 10. Duke's pretty good. I think Duke still has to be reckoned with by the end of the season. I think Vernon Carey's one of the best players in the country. He's
Where do you have 26th and 17 or something like that?
He's going to be a first-team All-American. He's going to get some buzz for National Player of the Year. I don't think he's going to win it, but this Duke team, for me, I was like going through like actually thinking, researching. This isn't just like a reactionary thought or recency bias thing. I really think this might be the worst Duke team since 07. I really like the only two candidates you have are the 2016 team, the Brandon Ingram, Luke Kennard, Grayson Allen team, and the 2014 team with Jabari Parker and Rodney Hood. And I think both of those teams are much better than this Duke team.
If Jabari Parker played in college basketball this year,
yeah,
we would be talking about him as a transcendent talent, unlike anything we've ever seen.
Yeah,
Jabari Parker, the hype around
we almost
him
got to that point with him when he was
2014,
here. Yeah, 2014
with a lot of good teams. So I mean, I think that's where we are. It's like we don't have singular talents that are going to take over. I guess the one guy you could point to is Anthony Edwards, and again, he's on Tom Crean's team, and no one cares.
Yeah, well, so that's Duke. Like Duke, as I said, I'm not saying Duke is not good, but like we have to redefine what good is. Mm-hmm. Duke is good compared to the rest of the crop. In this, yes, but we want cream. We don't want the crop.
We want the cream of the crop.
We want the cream.
Not just
Give me
the
cream. So Duke, yeah, like they're good this year, but like historically, if you did a Duke bracket of all the best teams of Duke in the last 13 years, this team is probably the worst, and if not the worst, they're at best like 11th or 10th. You know, so like they're not moving the needle for people.
Absolutely not.
Meanwhile, Kentucky's been up and down all year. I've been higher on them than I think a lot of Kentucky fans have been especially when coming off of losses when the sky is always falling in Lexington every time Kentucky loses. But having said that, even as a guy that's high on Kentucky and thinks they can figure it out because they have great guards and Nick Richards is coming around and John Calipari is still, over the last decade has been the best March Madness coach. Even though he doesn't win the title, he still like always wins. Always wins a handful of games. I think Kentucky's going to be fine, but they still have horrible losses. Evansville, Utah, South Carolina. This is not a good Kentucky team by Kentucky standards.
Absolutely
whatsoever.
not. And we saw them live in Las Vegas when they were basically saying that Ohio State was the greatest team ever. And you watch Maxey, and it just seems like, okay, these guys, these are legitimate NBA guards. And Hagens, of course, is the guy we've been talking about as a quote-unquote superstar type guy. But it seems like every single game it's like, oh, this is Quickly's game. Quickly's got 27 and 9 or whatever it is. But it's always an ugly 27 and 9 or whatever it may be. It's like with those three guys, it hasn't been able to find a formula where they all play together and make it work.
Right.
There's not like a unit.
It's a my turn
it's
situation.
Three individual
kind of,
guys doing what they need to do. So that, I guess, confuses you a little bit. And again, Nick Richards is ascended, but he was a mid-tier guy that is now on the third trip around doing well. John Calipari cares more than they do, at least, it seems like. He is like so fully invested. Bruce Pearl in the Auburn-Kentucky game, I thought both guys were going to have aneurysms on the sideline just to get their teams fired up.
Just to boost the rate. Oh, okay.
Just to
get the camera on them. Is that what you said? You thought they were going to fake?
Meanwhile, we're watching the Carolina Duke game from 1992, and Coach K has like at least 10 minutes of solo shots, and they're just like 3 cameras on him that's like fades into another solo shot of Coach K's hair, and as he's like showing his ring on camera, you know what I mean? It was a beautiful time. We've lost the artistry of the shots.
Do we have the ability to do sketches here on this program?
Probably.
Is that in our Fox contract? We should do a sketch where like you and I are playing college basketball coaches that are trying to get the camera. We're media whores, and we're just trying to basically it's Bruce Pearl, John Calipari, and just one after another just gets more absurd what we're doing on the sidelines.
Did you hear Bruce Pearl's speech to his team before? He said, "We have no shot, men, against Kentucky if we don't have a good day. We have no shot.
You got to make shots.
But guess what, men? Today we're going to have a good day." And everyone goes crazy. Wow, we're going to have a good day. What do you mean we're going to have a good day? And they had a good day.
And they made shots. You got to make shots.
That was the highlight of the game. Nothing to do with basketball.
And then the fourth, of the Kansas-Kentucky Duke Carolina variety. Kansas is definitely the best team to me. I think Kansas is the best team in the country, even though Baylor beat them in Fog Allen. Devon Dotson was out most of that game. Baylor deserves to be number one. I think Baylor, I'll defend that. But I think by the time the NCAA tournament rolls around, Kansas to me should be the favorite betting wise. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably.
Especially,
I just think people are familiar enough with this Kansas team to believe that Doak and Dotson and these guys they fit the mold of like, oh, that's the blue blood. Let's bet on them.
Even the way they're winning like isn't necessarily fun and exciting. They don't play like a exciting brand of basketball per se. You know what I mean?
And they also have a ton of controversy. It seems like 24/7. Like we watched this Texas game and. Tonight, Azubuike is not starting.
Yeah, like if you were talking about Kansas basketball this year, the most exciting things involving their program are all happening off the court.
Yes.
Snoop Dogg, the Bill Self stuff. Even the fight against Kansas State technically happened off the court. It spilled into the crowd, so that doesn't even count as an on-court thing.
Yeah, so it's all been great. On the court's been great. Off the court, it's a little sketchy.
But yeah, Kansas is pretty good. But it's the same thing kind of we're talking about with Duke. Like, is this Kansas team, if you stack them up with, I mean, they're better than they were last year, I would say, but what you're used to seeing from Kansas basketball, I don't think this team is moving the needle that much. And I think we start there with the big picture approach of like the Blue Bloods. There's no
your big four right there.
Yeah, those are the big four. Those are your Mount Rushmore of Blue Bloods, so to speak. And then even the other marquee programs that you might be used to. I mean, the defending national champion, Virginia. Virginia this year is what people have thought Virginia has been all along, which is like a team that just plays remarkably slow, just glacial pace, and cannot throw the ball in the basket to save their lives. That's kind of been the stigma of Virginia all along, and you and I are big brain basketball people. We know that that's not true. We know that their offense has been good at times. Certainly last year it was great. But this year it's horrible. It's just like it's unwatchable.
I'll give you the Kim Pom numbers.
It's so bad.
Number one in defense, an adjusted efficiency on defense. Number 277 in adjusted offense. That's the Virginia Cavaliers.
That's not good. Yeah.
And if you asked anyone over the past until last year,
their offense is worse than Carolina's. That's really all you need to say.
Yes. 1957, 1958. My goodness, where are we? That is sort of in a nutshell. Like Virginia is a team you could point to, or Villanova is a team you could point to, where you're like, oh, traditional team that's done really well this year. They must be doing great. They must have some moments going on. Villanova's had some moments where
Villanova's good, but it's the same sort of thing we keep saying with all these other teams. Like Villanova, compare this Villanova team to like the last 7 or 8 years that they've had this stretch where it feels like they've been a 1 or a 2 seed every year in the tournament. This team isn't that. They're not. Again, they're kind of in the same boat as Kansas. Like they're better than they were last year, but it's still not the Villanova we all know and love. The Villanova that won 2 national titles in 3 years. I mean, Michigan State came into the season. Were they preseason number 1? They were, right? Yeah, yep. Kansas was 2, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Michigan State was 1. They've had all sorts of adversity. Cassius Winston's brother passing away. They've had a ton of injuries. Josh Langford on down the line. But even then, like amongst all the adversity, even when like everything falls into place for Michigan State, they still just like aren't playing well more often than not. Like Aaron Henry, I'm sorry, I was about to say Xavier Tillman. Aaron Henry, no, like the Michigan State coaches know what they have in Aaron Henry, and they just have to be pulling their hair out when they watch this kid because he could seriously be Big Ten Player of the Year. He's talented enough to do that, and then he'll just have games where he's like 1 for 3. And scores 5 points, and you're like, well, how is that even possible?
I kind of call it the no-Joe Eastern.
Yeah.
No-Joe Eastern. That's when I see a guy where I'm like, where is his talent not working out?
So that's kind of like Cassius Winston has been great. Not quite as good as he was last year, but still, you can't really say anything bad about Cassius, how he's played this year. In comparison to what you're expecting from him, but that's where we've arrived with Michigan State. That's part of the problem right there. Like, because if Michigan State is as good as we thought they would be coming into the season, that could be something we could hang our hat on. Be like, wow, this will be interesting. 20 years since
the Big Ten won a title,
which was also Michigan State in 2000. This year, Cassius Winston breaks Mateen Cleaves' assist record. Mateen Cleaves was the point guard of that team. There could have been all these parallels. There still might be. I don't know. Michigan State, I don't know if you've heard, Tom Izzo knows how to coach in the NCAA tournament.
He's Mr. March.
Yeah, but the idea of like Michigan State kind of rolling through the country like we thought, that's certainly not happening. Meanwhile, I don't know what other teams jump out at. UConn as a team that people know, absolutely horrible. Like I couldn't even guess within 5 games how many they've won. If you told me what is UConn's record right now, I know it's around 500, but I have no idea. They are completely irrelevant, and I'm not even trying to take shots at UConn. I'm just being honest. Like they have not appeared on my radar whatsoever this year since Indiana beat them in Madison Square Garden. I think that was the last time I even paid attention to UConn. Speaking of Indiana, they can't shoot. They got the Archie Miller. It's year 3 for Archie Miller. They're kind of doing a reboot of the Indiana culture. Is IU back now? now that they moved on from Tom Crean? The answer is kind of, but not really. They can't shoot to save their lives. They're great at home. They're horrible on the road.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no way. It's sort of like with Notre Dame football when people were complaining about Brian Kelly, a couple years ago. They're like, well, he's not winning national championships. It's like, but who is at Notre Dame? You know what I mean? And in Indiana, you got to get back to a point where, hey, we're just going to the Sweet 16, and then we make that, next step or whatever. I think Archie can get him there.
But not this year.
But not this year.
And then, I mean, Arizona, you start looking at the West Coast, like Arizona's 3 best players are freshmen, which is cool. They're good players, but, like,
they're not
they're
great.
Also freshmen, and they have, like, dumb games where they play horrible, and it's very frustrating to watch. And then UCLA is another name. Mick Cronin is their head coach. And
I don't know if you guys have seen this, but
it's really all we need to say.
Yeah, it looks like the 277th, best offense in the country when you watch them play. Yeah, not so good. Seton Hall, I guess you could get excited about. People are excited about Seton Hall, but they're really, the name recognition isn't quite there, and people don't, suspect them to be the ranked team with Butler and Villanova, the more familiar teams you see in the Big East. Texas, I guess, would be interesting because Shaka Smart should be getting fired, but we just saw Jay Billis say on a national broadcast that he's a great man, one of the best in college basketball.
Man.
And
I agree.
he's not on the
You can't
hot
fire
seat.
a good man.
What I'm saying is, if there's not going to be good basketball, right? I need good storylines. I need something interesting to happen.
Yes.
And even the off the court stuff at Kansas has not been able to create a through line of interest.
There's been no, if you're tuning in this, like Tate and I talk about it a lot. So apologies to the regular friends of the program that hear us beat this drum over and over. But the FBI thing, nothing ever came of it. You might be tuning in thinking to yourself, ooh, I'm ready to. Ooh, college basketball. Let's see which programs are on probation. None of them are. They're none of them. Nothing happened. Nothing will happen. Michael Avenatti is the eternal flame amongst a hurricane. He's doing his damnedest. He's in those courtrooms, tweeting out and Duke. He's trying to get his Google searches of insider trading thrown out.
He went to that Facebook page where you could see the data they were collecting on you, and he was like, "Oh no."
Is there any doubt in your mind? Any doubt in your mind that Michael Avenatti pulled up his Google search history and just clicked delete all and was like, I'm good now.
Yeah.
There's no way they
clear cookies.
Clear. And he's like, done. Got him. And then they
what
come
do you
knocking
mean
on
you
his
found
door.
it? I cleared the cookies.
I cleared the cookies.
And the
That makes no
cookies,
sense.
yes, Michael, and the cookies.
He's doing all he can, but for the most part, that story, everything involving the FBI stuff.
But
is
there's not
completely
even a market, you know what I mean? Like, there's not even a story. Like, if James Wiseman, even if it came out and it was like James Wiseman, I guess
It
he's
literally
not playing.
did. It came out that James Wiseman, the #1 recruit in the country, that Penny Hardaway, like, this should have been the juiciest story. Like, we should still be talking. If this happened in 1996, if this story came out in 1996, Penny Hardaway would have been executed. He would not have been fired. He would have been executed, like the standard that like people had for college coaches. And it was like kind of a big story, but mostly
we
people
felt bad
laughed.
for James Wiseman.
Yeah, we felt bad for James Wiseman. Some people felt bad for Penny Hardaway because he technically wasn't the coach yet.
What's he supposed to do? Is what they're saying.
Yeah. The whole thing, like,
we're sorry.
Everyone just moved on like immediately, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have moved on. I'm not saying we should still be talking about it. It's just like that's where we've arrived. Is there's that, as you said, the play on the court is horrible.
Yes.
It is like you look up any box score, the 3-point shooting this season. They moved the 3-point line back because college basketball has to become the NBA. That's very important to everyone running college basketball.
Even though it's not a filler system,
no, it's not.
System,
but we have to turn college basketball into the NBA because the ratings for the NBA games are through the roof. Everybody loves NBA basketball. The public is spoken. We love watching NBA basketball.
Yes.
They can't get enough of it. They're clamoring for it. So why don't we take the best product in all of sports, which is March Madness, and make it more like the NBA by moving the line back? Because then you take something already great and then you take something everyone's clamoring for, put them together. Beautiful marriage of guys shooting 19% from the 3-point line is basically what we got. They moved the line back. They shortened the shot clock to offensive rebounds are 20 seconds now. All of this stuff, the player, the freedom of player movements for transferring, and I'm not trying to be like an old dude that's saying like ban transfers and restrict guys from transferring. But, there's that. There's guys are now going pro more often. Not even like guys are no longer declaring for the NBA draft. I think that's like a designation we've seen in the last like 5 years. It used to be if a guy was putting his name in, he was putting his name in for the NBA draft. Now you just hear about guys turning pro because there are guys that are like, I know I have no shot at the NBA, but I'm still going pro. I still want
to go to Turkey. And
yeah,
get some
I'll
money
make
and play
$80,000 a year
basketball.
if that's what it takes. I just want some money. So all sorts of guys are leaving their programs, creating all sorts of roster turnover because once the guys turn pro, then teams need people, so they're asking people to transfer. It's a whole thing to where the teams aren't as cohesive as they used to be. They're shooting deeper 3-point shots that they can't make now.
Just look at North Carolina basketball.
Yeah,
this is the story. Yeah.
And then this is the byproduct. This is what
Yeah.
you end up with is you and I searching for the cream. We want the cream.
Please.
Give us the cream.
Please. It's funny. Yeah. I want to get his name right, but on NCAA, .com, they put up stories and stuff. But one of the stories they put up was a championship arc, which is the Kim Pom adjusted offense, adjusted defense, and the only 4 teams that kind of fall into that championship arc that we have right now. It's who you'd expect, basically. It's Duke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kansas is obviously on that line, but the team that's most interesting, which is right on that through, and Gonzaga's on that line, obviously. And the 4th team is Dayton.
Mm-hmm.
And like Dayton is the team that we're talking all this junk about college basketball right now and where it is as a product. But my favorite stat that I've seen is that Dayton had 23 field goals and 21 of them were assisted.
Yes.
And that
Dayton's offense is
that's efficiency.
Well, let's do some silver lining
Yes.
stuff. Dayton, because let's give the people some good things to watch
Yes.
because people maybe are rolling their eyes right now like why the hell would I watch? So basically what you're telling me is stop watching until March.
Yes.
Just don't stop listening to the pod, please.
No, don't worry about that.
The algorithm, we really need.
We're
the
just saying
algorithm to help us.
if it's not going to be good basketball, do something else.
Yeah,
Give us something else.
Give us give
Come
us
on,
something.
Michael.
Yeah.
Come on, Avenatti.
I think Dayton is a bright spot. You and I both love Dayton. We watch Dayton in Maui. Their offense is so much fun. They play really, really well together. Anthony Grant is a Dayton alum, played at Dayton. We love the idea of that, like a guy coaching his alma mater. Dayton, there's a lot to be excited about with Dayton, and I've said this on the last couple of shows we've done that if Dayton is playing, I'm watching them on TV. They have officially reached Trump level. Not Donald Trump. I mean, like Trump.
Yeah, like
they've trumped everyone else.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
They'll trump anyone else except maybe Ohio State. If Ohio State's playing, I'll probably watch my team. But yeah, like if Kansas and Baylor were playing their rematch and Dayton was playing, God knows who, I think I might start with watching Dayton, and then once they build a big lead, I'd flip it over. Like that's where I've arrived. I love watching Dayton. I love watching Obi Toppin. They're a ton of fun.
Because you love a cohesive brand of basketball, which is something that we talk about in this program. We talked about the Galaxy brand of basketball. It's like I just want to see people pass the ball and act like they've played with each other. Don't just act like you played with each other before, because I think a lot of it is I don't know, a lot of isolation BS for the most part.
There's a lot of I know we sound so old right now.
I kind of love it.
I do too. This is lead into it. Who cares?
Stop shooting threes and feed the post.
Pump fake, damn it.
Make an injury pass. Finish with your left hand.
Oh God. Yeah.
Triple threat.
There's so many. There are a lot of teams. I felt this way watching Indiana and Ohio State. IU was this way, where it feels like they are told. You know, like the drill when you're playing in high school and your coach says no shots until there's 5 passes.
Yeah.
So you have to run offense and make 5 passes. It feels like these teams are like even when they do pass the ball, they're just trying to. And you know, like when you get to the 5 passes, then you just jack up a shot.
Of course.
That's how a lot of these teams are doing it.
No,
It's
they're
like,
counting it.
Like
1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm getting a 5th.
Yeah.
Brick. Every single time. And then it's a run back on
you have
defense
the one guy
for
on the
another
team.
brick.
The one guy on the team has the ball after 4 passes, so he throws it to himself off the glass.
Everyone's like, "Are you kidding me? Come on, man."
That's where we've arrived with some of these offenses. It's just like they're just doing the 5 passes to do them. They don't actually understand why the 5 passes are important or like the whole point of running offense. And I totally understand that people that have hated college basketball. A lot of NBA people will say this has been the state of college basketball for a long time. And I guess like I see where you're coming from is that we've slowly descended into this, but we've always had like top talent to make up for it. Like college basketball has always been a little ugly, but there's always been like stars that
it was like bad coaching was the reason that Miles Turner looked stupid. You know what I mean? It was like,
but it was still Miles Turner.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like, oh, at least you know.
So it's
this
fun.
guy.
It's like, could this guy get out of Miles Turner's way? I don't know. Find out tonight on Big Monday. You know, it's like, I'll watch. I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, this coach has a shooting guard who can't shoot. He has a center who can't catch passes.
And he's about to have a heart attack on the sideline.
And he's ranked 4th in the country. Here we go. All right.
I think that's why you've seen all the coaches, though, even Calipari and everyone, when you ask them about their team, they're just like, look, we're happy to put it together. You know, it's like it's a really confusing puzzle overall, and we can't really figure it out. The thing that you pointed to, which is like, here's the state of college basketball, here's where we are. Jay Billis in the middle of the game goes, I want to give everyone a homework assignment. I want them to go to youtube.com, folks. And again, type this out, youtube.com. They got a lot of videos there. Yeah. You type in 1974, greatest game of all time, which is Maryland versus NC State. And watch that game and check out the spacing on the floor. And he's like, there's none of this physicality that's going on right now. You know, people are spread out. You know, you got Lynn Elmore getting fed in the post, and you got Monty Tower running the offense for NC State. You got David Thompson dunking and just playing a beautiful game. And Jay Billis is sounding like us. And it wasn't like he was telling us to let us know that he remembers that game. It was like to give young kids a history lesson. He was like, go watch what basketball used to be like, kids. This is how we used to play.
We could get this back. It's like,
remember Tommy Burleson?
Don't give up on college basketball yet. We can get this. And it was funny because tonight Baylor. So we watch this game every night before we record these shows. Now we come to the Fox lot and they have the War Room where they have 30 TVs. It's awesome. It's one of the perks of this gig. I love that. They have the room with all the TVs, so we're watching all these games going on at once. And tonight we had on the two TVs were the Baylor game, the Baylor Kansas State, and Kansas Texas. And then on ESPNU we were watching NC Central playing Norfolk State. I think. Yes. That game ends.
Central's first conference win. Congratulations.
Yeah. That game ends, and they start showing the Duke Carolina game from '92. I think it was.
Yes.
Yeah, in Cameron. And as Kansas and Baylor were both kind of had comfortable leads, but it was still, like 7-point games with 5 minutes left in both of those games. You have the number 3 team in the country, the number 1 team in the country. And I found myself just watching the 92 Duke Carolina game just because it was more pleasing to watch, to be honest with you. It was just more fun to watch Bobby Hurley step into shots and he puts it up. It's in.
And it wasn't even like we had the volume up or anything.
No, we had the volume on the Kansas game, and we were both just locked in on this tiny TV.
I'm watching Jimmy Valvano give takes that I can't even
Brent
hear.
Musburger is crowd serving. We're just like, yes, that's
what I want.
Yes, I remember.
I want that. Coach K is showing his national championship ring on television. Dean Smith's yelling at the officials,
sweating a lot.
Not cussing, but basically saying I would say.
Oh man,
it was beautiful.
Yeah, so I think that's the big distinction between this year.
We missed 1992.
And the other years of one and done era, where because the college game has shifted dramatically. We all know that as one and done came into effect, it's dramatically shifted. But we've always had at least the stars, at least the one and dones have been on the big stage. And this year, I mean, you go through the top draft prospects, Tate. I don't know what order you have them on your big. I don't know what your big board looks like. But you got James Wiseman, leaves Memphis.
Yes.
He's out of college basketball. Yeah. You have Cole Anthony at North Carolina, horrible, not even going to make the NIT. You have Anthony Edwards at Georgia, also horrible. Their team is really, really bad. You have say Jaden McDaniels at Washington, dead last in the Pac-12. You have Tyrese Halliburton at Iowa State, horrible. They're not.
You
making
have Nico Mannion at Arizona,
who has been okay, but he's not Nico Nation is on life support. We'll put it that way. He's been fine.
He might be better in his second one and done attempt.
Yeah.
That might be next year.
LaMelo Ball and R.J. Hampton go overseas. You have this is on down the line, and this is these are all the top draft prospects, and this is a bad draft to begin with. So even if all these guys were in, they still probably wouldn't be as good as classes of the past. And all these guys are not even relevant. Nico Mannion will be playing in the NCAA tournament, so at least we have that. But it's really Obi Toppin. That's why I think we love Dayton so much. Is you want to look at a team that has a high caliber. This guy will be a lottery pick. He's a star, a bona fide star, and also he's on a team that could actually win a national championship. Dayton is the only team I think that fits that bill. That's really it.
Yeah,
Dayton. And maybe Vernon Carey of Duke, but Vernon Carey. Listen, I like Vernon Carey a lot. Very productive. He's a very, very good player. He's definitely the most boring one-and-done star of Duke, right? In the entire run of Duke.
I mean, I don't want to necessarily point to him, but yeah, pretty much. I mean, Brandon Ingram might be there. It was like Brandon Ingram and Vernon Carey
Vernon,
are
if
both,
you're listening, and
quiet guys.
I know you are listening. It's not your job to entertain us, so don't that's not a criticism. I'm just saying, as a fan, from a fan perspective, I'm not the cream is not rising when I'm watching Vernon Carey.
Alex O'Connell, start doing something. You know what I mean? When you get in the game, give an elbow. Do something. Get Duke back. Get Duke back to where
Vernon Carey, you can't even hate him.
No,
he's not hateable at all.
Kid,
very likable, but he's not even the fun likable like a Zion. He's kind of got Marvin Bagley's demeanor, but Marvin Bagley,
Meeks, body
but without
the
Marvin Bagley highlight,
just
dunking and jumping out of the gym on everybody. Yeah, he's like Kennedy Meeks with Marvin Bagley. is Vernon
And
Carey.
again, when you hear that, you're kind of like, okay. There's
Sure.
That
Fine, I guess.
doesn't really sell you on wanting to watch that guy.
So I found this stat. I dug this out. So to prove my point, to know I'm not crazy, I was looking up so the top 5 teams right now. We have Baylor at number 1. We have at number 2 is Gonzaga. Number 3 we have your Kansas Jayhawks. At number 4 San Diego State, undefeated, the final team that's undefeated. We'll get to that in a little bit. And at number 5 we have Louisville, the Louisville Cardinals, first place in the ACC. You start looking at all these mock drafts, and again, I don't know what your big board looks like, Tate, but the potential of those top 5 teams, these are the top 5 teams now in the country. The potential first rounders, you have Jordan Nwora. He'll probably be a first rounder, right?
I would assume so, yeah.
Devon Dotson, late first rounder, maybe. You have Azubuike, maybe.
He's a second
probably
rounder.
not, though.
Yeah, he might not even get drafted.
He's like, exactly, because if it's 1998.
If you want to complain about DeAndre Ayton in the NBA, you're not gonna like.
You're not gonna like Azubuike.
Yeah, exactly.
Doak's probably not. Agbaji should probably be a first round.
Yeah, he's a first round pick.
Yeah,
that's a 30th.
And then Petrusev from Gonzaga.
Yeah,
he could be a first rounder. So basically, you have maybe 3 of the top 5 teams. Like these are the only guys that have any chance. Are you following me? Are you tracking what I'm doing here? So of the top 5 teams, we have 3 guys that might be first round picks, and even then, none of those guys are lottery bona fide. That's the guy. At this time last year, at this point in the season last year, your top 5 teams were Tennessee, Duke, Virginia, Gonzaga, and Kentucky. Those were the top 5 teams.
Yeah, those are a lot of good players.
Those 5 teams produced 10 first-round picks in the 2019 NBA draft.
Grant Williams, Jordan Bone.
You had Zion, Barrett, Hunter, Hachimura, Cam Reddish, P.J. Washington, Tyler Hero, Brandon Clark, Grant Williams, Ty Jerome. And that doesn't even count Kyle Guy, who was most outstanding player in the NCAA tournament. So we are not just making this up. We are not. This is.
We're not being haters.
Yeah,
we're not trying to talk bad about the actual players themselves. We just want to say the product, the college basketball product at large, has been affected by one and done.
There's a divide going on. This is a very unusual season of college basketball, even by college basketball standards. This is one of the worst seasons in terms of just pure entertainment I can ever remember. So there's that.
That's where we are. I mean, I don't even know what the answer is either, other than the fact that the actual tournament. I said this to you earlier. I was like, the tournament itself will probably lead to a great Final Four that has a Duke, Gonzaga, Dayton, Baylor. Final Four. Let's just say that works out, and that would be a beautiful Final Four. And it would
would you say Duke, Gonzaga, Dayton, Baylor? Yeah, I'd like that Final Four.
Yeah, why not?
That'd be great.
I mean, people would enjoy that. We'd be in Atlanta.
I would like. I actually think
the tournament may be great, but the season has not been.
We get accused of loving Blue Bloods too much on this program. I'm doing the straw man thing again. We're really good at that.
We're getting accused.
People are saying. We do love Blue Bloods every so often, but it's not like a great example is when Loyola was going on their run. We were just we've never watched Loyola. We're not going to pretend like we have. People interpreted that as us hating on Loyola.
And by people we mean Sister Jean. Yes.
Yeah. My big thing is I have nothing against mid-majors. I have nothing against smaller schools. If San Diego State runs the table, that would be cool. My problem with NCAA tournament runs is always I love the tournament, but it does suck when you get a 2011 situation and you got VCU and Butler and a sloppy UConn team who had Kimba, but other than that, they did not play well in the title. It just becomes you're this is it. This is the one moment that everyone is tuning into this sport to see what it has to offer, and you put this garbage on the biggest stage. That kind of frustrates me as a fan of just college basketball. So this year I would not have a problem with it because I think Baylor Baylor is certainly one of the best teams, and if you want to argue that they're the best team in the country, I'm not going to stop you. I think they deserve to be ranked number 1. Dayton is my favorite team in the country this year. San Diego State is undefeated, and they haven't played the toughest schedule in the world, but this isn't – I mean, San Diego State feels very similar to 2014 Wichita State. Not as good, but the same sort of vibe where it's I feel like they're going to lose in the second round, and everyone's going to say, aha.
Told you.
You're overrated, whereas that doesn't actually prove that they were overrated. It just means that they ran into, Kentucky, 2014 Kentucky.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I wouldn't mind if any of those teams would be in it. So I wanted to make that.
Or dare I say Florida in the second round?
I just want to make that clear because we are ripping on if that happened, if we did get a Gonzaga, San Diego State, Baylor, Seton Hall Final Four, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. That would actually
it
that would actually
be
be
the best
awesome.
teams that we've seen all year.
Yeah, those are great teams.
That's what we're saying.
compared
Like,
to
the
rest of
teams that we're talking about, we're not like talking down on those teams, right? We're just kind of saying like this is the best we've got.
Yeah,
and it's not even that great, you know what I mean? But it's not from an individual sense, really, and from those teams really taking the next. The only team that I think is on that upper echelon level as far as the talent that's in house and what they're able to produce is Dayton, because I don't think they have top flight talent other than Toppin and Crutcher maybe, but they're able to play at a 5-star premium level to compete for a title.
Other than the best player in the country, and
and maybe the best point guard in the country.
They should do. I hope the A10 does this. I hope we get a Dayton, Dayton SID, if you're listening, and you should be, because my God, find me a national podcast that kisses Dayton's ass more than this one does.
You won't.
You need to do it. We need to start a campaign to get Crutcher to be A10 Player of the Year and Toppin to be National Player of the Year.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be
That's
insane?
Fair.
To have the Conference Player of the Year and the National Player of the Year both on your team, and they're two different people.
It's a very Duke move.
That's a Duke move.
It's a very, very early decade Duke move.
Yes, it's a Duke move.
Well, I was going to say, like, even when you brought up the Final Four, it's like in 2010, which I think is one of the worst, tournaments and maybe ever.
Who won that one?
Well, obviously, Gordon Hayward didn't make the shot. I thought Gordon Hayward was better than that, but he didn't make the shot.
Follow through, Gordon.
Honestly,
follow through. Hold your follow through.
With the whole Gordon Hayward, like, getting the free throw lane violation for Kobe to get 60 points, I'm going to tell you this. I knew after he missed that shot at half court, he would never do that.
I love Gordon.
He's not a gamer.
I absolutely love Gordon saying that, by the way. That everyone's tweeting at him like, Gordon, you're the man. You're my new favorite player. I'm buying your jersey tonight. And he's like, take it back.
Had he hit that heave, he would have definitely done that for Kobe. But the fact that he didn't, no way. But anyways, there's no team to hate like in 2010 because people remember that game was like, we got to knock off Duke. America's like, let's knock off Duke with the Hoosiers team. Let's see if it happens. In Indianapolis.
Playing,
and it didn't work, but it
2
still was fun. It was David versus Goliath. We don't even have a Goliath. We don't even have like a behemoth. Like even if Duke made the title game, it's not even a hateable team. Like you said, Vernon Carey is a likable kid. It's kind of like okay.
There's no big bad wolf out there that we're trying to
nowhere.
The
only big bad wolf I know of is a guy by the name of Bill Self, and I don't even know if he's a wolf or a bear or whatever he may call himself.
And the NCAA is trying to hunt him, but like
he's too lovable.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
He's like Bugs Bunny in Elmer Fudd. He's kind of like
well, yeah. I mean, like, and if this, like I said, if this was 20 years ago, I think most of America would be like, yeah, let's get Bill Self. Let's get him. Yeah. But now it's like, if the NCAA hates Bill Self and I hate the NCAA, I like Bill Self then.
Yes, exactly.
Bill Self's my buddy. Yeah.
He's like, let's double down.
Meanwhile, I got more stuff to talk about. So the best players. Let's talk about the players in particular because we've gone over the problems with the teams. The players. This is another problem with like the stars. So your player of the year candidates. You have Obi Toppin, who plays for Dayton. We love him. He's absolutely electric. If you got to watch this kid play, he's a ton of fun. But he plays for Dayton, and we understand that. Most of America does not want to find NBC, SN, whatever to watch Dayton play, right? You have Peyton Pritchard, who I have as number 2 on my list of player of the year candidates. Is basically T.J. McConnell. That is,
or Aaron Kraft.
Somewhere in between. He
Aaron Kraft's so offended by
Aaron Kraft's face right there.
Like, are you kidding me? I took a team to a Final Four.
Again, great player, but like if I told you could watch the next coming of T.J. McConnell this Thursday night, you're gonna say, is Bill Walton commentating? Because I might watch. Otherwise, I'm probably out. My third best player in the country is Luka Garza, big man for Iowa, who is just an old school.
What if I told you it's 2008 and Luke Herringold playing primetime?
Just picture like Kevin McHale in the current, a poor man's Kevin McHale in 2020.
A rich man's Bill Laimbeer.
Yeah, right. Somewhere in between. Just picture just like a big white dude that's got all the tricks in his bag, and he's very effective. But it's like, again, is that moving the needle for you? Probably not. Vernon Carey, we already been over. I have him up. He's going to be a first-team All-American, I think.
I would assume.
One of the most boring Duke players of all time. Not even good or
People
bad.
will
just kind of like
not remember his name.
No, they won't remember. Yeah, like in 10 years, he will be forgotten. And not because he's not good. It's just like he's not Zion. He's not Austin Rivers, hateable.
Or Wendell Carter. They didn't even have the mom. He didn't have anything.
That brings me to Malachi Flynn, who is the best player on San Diego State. You're undefeated.
Formerly the best player on Washington State.
This is what I was going to say. This kid is a 3-star recruit who transferred from Washington State to San Diego State and is now playing in the Mountain West. And if that doesn't get you going, I understand completely because that's not the
West
profile.
Coast basketball, folks.
That is not the profile of a guy that everyone's going to get excited about. Then you have like Jordan Nwora, who, you know, for as great as he's been, and Louisville fans watch all of his games, so they probably have a higher opinion of me. I've made the point before, Tate. He always seems to crap the bed whenever I watch him in the big games. So yeah, like I imagine like neutral fans are turning on the game. They're like, oh, he's playing Duke tonight. I'm gonna watch this, and then he scores 6 points and is 3 for 14 or something. These are the guys that are like competing for National Player of the Year even. So even we already did the part where it's like, here are your NBA stars, and they're not relevant. So now these are the best guys in college. These are the guys that are considered the best players in the country, and they're all very, very good. They're all having great seasons. I'm not tearing down any of them. I'm just saying if you compare like the excitement levels that these guys bring to the table, when you have like you just think about all the point guards that are up there too, like Miles Powell and Marcus Howard and Cassius Winston and Dotson and Pritch. Like, can any of those guys dunk? Honestly, we might have 5 of the 10 best players in the country might not even be able to dunk.
And then if you look at the NBA, which is, again, you're trying to mirror the NBA, every single point guard in the NBA basically just throws – it's a Russell Westbrook syndrome. It's like, I want to throw this ball down as hard as I can to prove a point. So it's kind of the opposite. So it's like the old version trying to play the new model, and it just really is confusing. Doesn't seem to make much sense. And as you said, these are the best that we've got. So we're not putting these guys down. We're just saying the best that we have this year is sort of middle of the road from what we usually expect as far as our top tier guys to point to. But I also think that we got a little too high last year with Zion and just the whole focalized version of college basketball last year actually mattered throughout. Like Zion carried the through line throughout. Everyone was like, okay,
but honestly,
I care.
if you took Zion out of last year, if you could just take the whole Duke team out of college basketball last year, and Michigan State did in the Elite Eight.
Oh, gotcha.
I like that one. You could
Mr.
take Duke
March.
completely out of college basketball last year. It still would have been an incredible season. It still would have been like tons of great players, tons of
moments.
I mean, yeah, like the whole Virginia storyline in and of itself, just the Virginia thing. Like if the only NCAA tournament games that were broadcast were just Virginia's 6 wins, that's like a hell of a tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
like
one of the
Purdue
greatest
game
runs
we're
ever.
talking about forever.
It's one of the greatest runs ever. The team is one of the, maybe not the greatest teams ever, but like they would wipe the floor.
If Carson Edwards played this year,
yeah.
He is. We're talking about is Carson Edwards.
That's all we're talking about.
Literally,
like, this
all
guy
we're talking
is,
about.
Yeah.
That's what's so funny to me.
Yeah.
There's so many differences. Like, or Jarrett Culver, right? If Culver's doing it this year at Texas
Say it,
Tech,
Tate. You've already been an old man already. Say it. Say all these guys should come back. You said Carson Edwards should have come back.
Come back.
This is the lesson.
Should have come back.
Never go pro. Always come back, kids.
No.
You could
go
be the
pro.
star.
Like if you're Garrison Brooks, right, and you're in North Carolina, and you're having like a really, really good year, you got to go pro. You just got to.
I had this note too because you were talking about off-court stuff that could be interesting, or maybe this isn't off-court because it has to do with coaching, but just the whole storyline thing. One of the trends coming into this season is there are a lot more coaches who were NBA players who had the brand name as an NBA player. Most obvious example for this season was Juwan Howard getting hired at Michigan.
Yes.
But this is sort of a movement that's happening in college basketball.
Started with Patrick Ewing, or not really, but Chris Mullen, Patrick Ewing, all these guys. Yeah.
So
it's been happening forever.
Jerry Stackhouse takes over at Vanderbilt. So you're asking yourself, Penny Hardaway's at Memphis. We talked about him. So you're asking yourself, how are those guys doing? Maybe that's interesting. Maybe we have one of these NBA players that's coaching and is doing something good. No, false. We have Penny Hardaway is 16-5. He's 5-3 in the American. He's in 5th place. We have Damon Stoudemire at Pacific. He's in 4th place in the West Coast Conference. Outside of that, every single other marquee coach that played in the NBA is in 7th or worse in their conference standings right now. Patrick Ewing going to miss the tournament, tied for 7th in the Big East right now. Also had all those problems. Whatever happened to that, by the way? Remember we were like, wow, this looks like Patrick Ewing.
Again, what do we need? If you're gonna have good basketball, give us the stories.
That's what I don't understand. Like I thought Patrick Ewing had a chance to get fired. I thought he was going to get fired when basically everyone was leaving Georgetown, and then we find out why, and you're just like, wow, this doesn't look great. And then I don't know.
Well, I think everyone was like, why'd you leave? And they're like, Mac McClung.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, no.
Aaron McKee, new coach at Temple.
Yeah.
He is 11-10. Juwan Howard started out hot, had Michigan in the top 5. Michigan is currently tied for 11th in the Big Ten. Doesn't matter who they're tied with. Don't bother looking it up. Not relevant. Fred Hoiberg is currently 7-15. He's in 13th place in the Big Ten. Terry Porter at Portland's been there a little while. He's in dead last in the West Coast Conference. Danny Manning at Wake Forest is in dead last in the ACC. And Jerry Stackhouse is 0-8 and dead last in the SEC. Vanderbilt has lost 28 straight SEC games dating back to last season and the season before even, because they lost their first game of the conference tournament in 2018. So even that little could be a fun wrinkle where it's like, oh my God, what if Penny Hardaway versus Patrick Ewing in the Sweet 16? Whoa, this would be great. It's not going to happen. No.
It's never going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
I was trying to think about other coaches like a King Rice or, maybe like a Juan Dixon at Coppin State, but still.
Even if you want to scrape the bottom of the barrel with NBA stars, quote unquote.
Yeah, it's not really happening.
And say Tony Bennett, who did play in the NBA technically.
Not having a great year.
Not having a great year. Probably going to miss the tournament. Virginia's a bubble team, and they're on the wrong side right now. Donyell Marshall is at Central Connecticut. Yep. They've won 2 games. They're 2-22 or something like that. Mm-hmm. It is even that part, because that was something that I had my eye on at the start. Because I was going, as we were preparing for this podcast, I was going over my preseason notes of things kind of narratives, trends going on. And I had that listed. I was a lot of former NBA guys, more than usual. Dan Marley at Grand Canyon. I don't know how they're doing.
God, I love Dan Marley.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how Grand Canyon's doing. Grand Canyon's the one school. Throw out the records.
No, they're always winning.
Always winning.
It's a full celebration, and the party never stops.
Most of the time you say throw out the records when there's a rivalry game. Grand Canyon, you throw out the records in every game. Don't even keep score.
Grand Canyon has no history against anyone, so everyone's a rival.
If I told you they don't have scoreboards at Grand Canyon, would you believe it?
100%. You could actually tell me anything about Grand Canyon basketball, and I would believe it. If you told me that they had a ball pit and people swam in the game, yeah, for sure, it's Grand Canyon. What do you expect?
They just trip balls.
That's GCU, son.
They put 40 minutes on the clock, and you have to do as much ecstasy as you could possibly do in 40 minutes.
Yes, and then Jerry Colangelo just sits in the middle of the court and reads a book. It's they're ready. Roll the balls out. USA. Team USA basketball, always at Grand Canyon. They're really it was supposed to be Penny and James Wiseman to lead that whole story. Yeah. That obviously fell apart. So then everything fell apart. Stackhouse had the lead against Coach Cal in Kentucky, at halftime a couple weeks ago. Yeah. That was probably the highlight.
He should have done
a
Lee Corso move where he takes the picture of the scoreboard at half. Get your whole team together and be like, yeah, let's take the picture. We're doing it.
Win the half. Yeah. They all fled.
Oh God! So that is the bad. That is what did we just do? 50 minutes of bad on college basketball.
I wouldn't even say bad, just an explainer.
It's not bad.
A crash course.
It's an explainer. We have to be on it. You have to have credibility as a journalist. We can't. We're not clapping in the press box. We're shooting you guys straight. This is the state of college basketball, and we love college basketball more than anybody. Mm-hmm. So, not great that we feel this way. But there is good stuff. We already talked about Dayton. Mm-hmm. Are there any other teams you like to watch? Are there any other players? We mentioned Obi Top and Jalen Crutcher, and any non-Dayton players or non-Dayton teams that you find electric?
I will say I've been doing the Pac-12 update, right? So I've been watching West Coast basketball, and I keep my eyes peeled for all things West Coast basketball. There's a guy by Lamine Janae is his name.
Okay.
He plays at Cal State Northridge.
Shout out Kyle.
Shout out to Kyle, producer Kyle, great guy, and also shout out to Mark Gottfried, aka the Godfather. And the CSUN, I mean, they're coming after us, and they really want us to come to Northridge and come to a game. I don't know if we can do that, but we definitely can support Mark Gottfried and get him on this show. Because if Mark Gottfried was sitting on a stool right here and we could ask him anything.
Whoa, hold on. We have CSUN people that listen to the show. They legit listen to the show.
The Matadors.
We got to get Godfrey. There's a we just spent 50 minutes talking about it. There is a vacuum in college basketball storylines right now that needs to be filled. And there's only one man who can. We said we're looking for cream.
Yes.
Who's the man who has the most cream in this business?
Yes, Mark
Godfrey. He's got the cream.
Yes,
that is a man with
shaving cream, hair cream, all kinds of cream.
Other kinds of cream.
Yes,
that man is a creamer. If there ever was one,
he's a legend. Bring him here.
Get Jim him here.
Mo Williams, Jim Herrick, Mark Gottfried,
Steve Lavin, our colleague at Fox. Get them all
right here. Right here. We need to
make it happen.
That's what we need.
The panel.
Because then we can all watch these horrible games and just talk about other stuff.
We're taping every one of these shows. So we're technically on TV, even though this isn't on TV.
Yes.
We're on YouTube, which is basically TV for Gen Z.
Screen.
It's Gen Z TV.
Yeah. TZ.
If we're going to have a TV show about sports, we have to do a segment where it's like the big panel, where we just have 40 people circling the table. And what if we had one circle and then we had an outer circle? And oh my God, this is a great idea.
And then people had to do a raffle. They had to put their paddle up. Yes, Coach Godfrey, what do you say about that? I would have paid him $80,000. Oh, $80,000 here.
I would say to answer my own question that I asked you about Dayton or non-Dayton players or teams that I like. We have to give a shout out to San Diego State. They are undefeated. I think San Diego State has become must watch. They aren't. I will concede they're not like the most fun team in the world, but Malachi Flynn is a ton of fun, and they are undefeated, and you have to respect that, Tate. It's February.
Yes.
The calendar has turned to February. Like I said, this isn't a Kentucky in 2015 undefeated situation where they're a juggernaut just ripping through everybody. It's more like the 2014 Wichita State situation. But they're still a great team. Like to go undefeated, especially in this landscape of college basketball, where it's impossible to have a good team, and even the great teams are losing head scratchers. Duke lost to Stephen F. Austin at home. To stay unblemished, and they do have some impressive wins. They beat Iowa, who's very, very good. They beat Creighton. I'm trying to think about. They won at Utah State. They wiped the floor at Utah State. Utah State was up 10 on them on Saturday. I was supposed to go to the game. I didn't go to the game. I'm sorry.
Kawhi Leonard went to the game.
I let down the. I had some
Paul
SDSU.
George went to the game.
I know. I should have gone.
Steve Ballmer went to the game.
I had some SDSU people tweeted at me that they were going to buy me tacos, and I almost drove down, but I didn't have a ticket, and I don't know how to apply for credentials.
Here's what you got to put out to the
world. A lot of excuses.
Well, there's a lot of people that like will ask you something like that, like Mark Titus, please come to our game, and then they'll offer you tacos. That's great. What we need is tickets.
We need tickets first. Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get press passes are not fun. We want tickets. We want to be in the experience.
I want free tickets. Let me make that clear as well. Like, my God, I'm about to get. Have I ever told you the story that when I was? I think this is part of why I wasn't a Pacers fan growing up. The first reason I wasn't a Pacers fan is because I hated Reggie Miller. He just didn't do it for me. He was a whiner, and he just like I could just see through his BS. And sorry Reggie if you're listening.
Not a colleague. It's fine.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, he's not on this network. Okay, fine. I'm good. No, I just didn't love Reggie. But then what continued my frustration with the Pacers was when I was in high. This has nothing to do with the Pacers. This has to do with my experience. When I was in high school, Dwayne Wade, right before Shaq got to Miami, Dwayne Wade and the Heat were playing the Pacers in a playoff series. Very, very young Dwayne Wade. And this guy I know from my church, who is like a family friend, he knew me and my brother loved basketball, and we did. We liked the Pacers okay. They had some good players, right? This was mid-2000s. So he asked us, he has extra tickets to the playoff game. I had never seen NBA playoff basketball in my life. They're in the nosebleeds at the top, and he's like, would you guys like to come with me and my wife to the game? We're like, this would be incredible that this family friend knows that we love basketball. So I am probably, I don't remember how old I would be. It doesn't matter. I was probably like 16, 15, something like that. I go to the game. We have a great time. I think the Heat end up winning. We go back home. 2 days later, I see the guy at church, and he comes up to me and he's like, hey, if you could talk to your parents and get me that $100 when you get the chance, that would be great. And it has scarred me to this day. I've never been swindled and bamboozled in such a way. 15-year-old me was just staring, just like, I'm sorry, what? Like, now I have to ask my parents for $100.
Yeah. For an experience you already had.
Yeah. I already had. Like, I can't take it back. Like, I can't. It's not a product. It's like I can't just like give it back to the guy.
Genius. I need to start doing that. You guys want to come to the game?
Yeah. So now I'm like on high alert. Anytime anybody's like, I have a ticket for you, they're like, hey man, you want to come to the Drake concert? I got an extra ticket. I'm like, how much? Explain to me exactly how much.
$400. And Drake's not gonna rap. He's just gonna let the music play and dance,
and then hold the microphone out
and make the crowd sing it. Actually, you have to do more work at a Drake concert than Drake does. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
There we are. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, I think if you get you a ticket, and make it honest, and don't make you pay $100, don't ask your parents for $100, everything will be fine.
Yeah.
We'll be fine.
Yeah.
San Diego State, undefeated.
I like San Diego State a lot. Yeah, watch San Diego State. Gonzaga. Gonzaga's fun. They play up and down.
That's one thing that matters. The West Coast is battling to see who will be the supreme team in the West region.
That is actually something. We should watch for.
We care about that.
Yeah, we do care about
Gonzaga versus San Diego State.
The way it's currently structured right now, Baylor is almost certainly going to be a 1 seed in Houston in the South Regional. Kansas would be the 1 seed in the Midwest, and then that leaves San Diego State and Gonzaga fighting for the LA regional spot, and whoever loses that fight is going to be sent to New York City. And a lot of people seem to think San Diego State deserves it because they're undefeated. That makes a lot of sense. But Gonzaga's wins are better. Gonzaga lost to Michigan in the Bahamas, which at the time was a head scratcher. Then Michigan kept winning, and it was like, oh, that's actually a great loss. And then now it's like, whoa, not a great loss at all. So it's very confusing to figure out like how you
Here's your lock.
Decipher all that, because I think Vegas would probably say Gonzaga is better than San Diego State, right?
Absolutely, and I think Vegas and America would. And I will say this: if you want to go ahead and put money on something, here's your money. The East #1 seed will be Duke. You can lock that in, and then the #1 seed in the West will be Gonzaga, and San Diego State will be the #2 seed in the West.
I think San Diego State. I'm in agreement with you. I think they're going to be #2 in the West because if they go undefeated, they're definitely a 1.
Yeah, but
it's
still,
a lock.
But I don't see it happening.
You don't think they're going undefeated?
I don't think so.
I could see them losing in the
tournament,
in the Mountain West tournament.
Yeah, it's a tough tournament. It's almost
I think
better
they should
to lose.
Want to lose in the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to rip off.
You want to be a 2 seed. Yeah.
With Gonzaga and all the pressure's off.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it feels like San Diego State's the kind of team that will put like a banner up for being the #1 seed.
San Diego State will 1,000,000% hang a banner if they're a 1 seed and or if they go undefeated in the regular season.
Exactly.
Even but no, that works. You go undefeated the regular season, you get your banner. So lose in the conference tournament, you still get your banner. Everyone's a winner.
And you get no eyeball. Like, you want Gonzaga to take that. You want Gonzaga to be the #1 seed.
Yeah, I would much rather be the 2 seed in the West than the 1 seed in the East if I was.
I'd much rather be the 8 seed if I were the Florida Gators and San Diego State was the 1 seed.
Exciting players to watch for on the Fox family of networks. Marcus Howard, Miles Powell. There's a divide going on. We have drawn the line in the sand. We've said we're Team Miles Powell, correct? Or am I speaking for you?
I mean,
this upset a lot of Marquette fans. They were throwing all their advanced stats at me, saying Marcus Howard does more with less, and I'm like, well, the reason he has less is because he ran the guys off the team because he shoots so much. But there's no wrong answer, but Marcus Howard is definitely the wrong answer.
We love Marquette because Marquette. We love Tommy Boy. We love Wojo.
Tommy Boy.
We
talking about Tom Crean. Was Tom Crean considered Tommy Boy when he was there?
Exactly. Yeah.
Do we have Tommy?
Yeah, that's
Tommy
what
Boy
D-Wade called him, Tommy Boy. We're a big fan of Marquette basketball. I think that they've supported the product over the years. So it has nothing to do with you guys. It has to do with Marcus Howard. And we just decided that we're gonna stick with the Hauser brothers. The Hauser twins.
I think so. No, Marcus Howard for me is like, it feels like empty calories to me. What else does he do? He doesn't play defense. He doesn't have a lot of assists. They're not really winning that much. They're better than I guess I thought they were, but they're still not. Like, Marquette is not.
He's gonna be a lot of fun in the tournament.
Seton Hall's in the first place in the Big East. Seton Hall locks up. They play D, and Miles Powell still gets buckets.
Yeah, and Bill Raftery is getting a bobblehead night from Seton Hall, so they're not doing that at Marquette.
Yeah,
where's the Tommy Boy Tom Crean bobblehead?
But I will say, the caveat is Tate and I are idiots, and Marcus Howard is a ton of fun. So, like, if you're just tuning in,
if you just want to watch someone gun and score, watch Marcus Howard. Yeah,
Marcus Howard is #1. He's literally leading the country in scoring, right? But he's definitely the guy. Even if he's not leading the country in scoring, he's definitely the guy most likely to drop 50 on any given night.
He's similar to Jimmer in that sense.
Yeah.
He's also similar that he shoots almost every time he gets the ball.
Is that it? Like, what else is there to talk about? What else is there to update the people on?
I want to shout out LSU real quickly. We did not bring them up. I think Will Wade and LSU, again, they were the butt of the joke last year because of Nasri and all the, the 300K, 100K.
But now they stopped cheating. So
and now they're fair and
they
balanced,
rules, so.
And now they're playing a great game. I think they're still undefeated in the SEC.
Still undefeated in the SEC.
So I just want to bring them up.
Yeah, here are some here are teams that are leading power conferences, Tate, currently in the standings. You ready for this?
Yes.
This is the state of college basketball. LSU is in first place in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Baylor, as we've said, is in first place in the Big 12. Illinois is in first place in the Big 10. And Seton Hall is in first place in the Big East. Meanwhile, these are teams within a game of first place, so they're just one game back.
Mm-hmm.
You have Colorado in the Pac-12. They're one game back.
Love Colorado.
USC. Rutgers. Is one. Your family, your religion, and Rutgers basketball.
Thanks,
one
Jimmy.
game back in the Big Ten standings, along with Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes, and Florida State is currently one game back in the ACC. So these teams are all vying for power conference championships. That's where we've arrived.
Wow.
So yeah, LSU in first place.
Yeah, LSU. Congratulations. They're doing it.
I want to give a shout out to, and this is another thing that the people should be made aware of. A shout out to Frank Haith, the crop duster, a man who I call the crop duster because every time he takes a head coaching job, he takes a massive, he lets out just a massive fart. And then he runs from the program before the stench sets in. He did it at Miami. He left Miami in shambles. Jim Larinaga had to come in and clean up that mess. He left Missouri in shambles. Who the hell knows what's happening with that mess? That's still in the process of being cleaned up. Frank Haith is back, Tate. Tulsa just beat, who did they just beat? Was it Houston? They just beat Houston,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
They just beat Houston.
Elijah Joyner.
They are 7-1. They are in first place in the American Athletic Conference. They are firmly on the bubble. They might make the tournament. Frank Haith has not made the tournament since 2016. He made the first 4 at Tulsa.
Yes.
If you don't count the first 4, the play-in games as the real tournament, he has not made the tournament since 2013. Frank Haith is back.
And he's very excited about it.
Yeah.
He's very happy. And I think America, he's a familiar face. I think a lot of that has to, kind of play out in the tournament where it's like, oh, my God, Kelvin Sampson, he's at Houston?
Yeah.
I like Houston now. You know what I mean? Oh, Frank Haith at Tulsa? Oh, I kind of like Tulsa now. So, good moment for Frank Haith. And obviously the big celebration this weekend with the game
they
winner.
beat Wichita State. I'm
The
crossing
Wichita,
my
it's
stream.
53-51.
Yeah, they beat Wichita State. The reason I was thinking of Houston was because you just brought up Kelvin Sampson.
Yes.
Houston lost to Cincinnati, and the Houston kid bit the Cincinnati guy. We have to
And
talk
he got
about
suspended for a game, right?
Yeah. For one game.
For biting.
For biting.
And one game for tripping. And I would say this, like if you bite someone, that's,
Can you imagine
that's
if
a 5-game suspension.
What if he bit the guy while holding a stool above his head? What do you like? His whole family would be wiped out.
Yeah,
They just
you're
line
done
them all
forever.
up in the firing squad. And
Yeah,
just
they're like, you're done.
Like, oh my
You're
God,
done. This is it. How dare you bite?
He got one game for biting, and Silvio De Sousa threw like 4 punches, missed on all of them, and then picked up a stool. And they were like, "You're done for 12 games.
12
Get
games.
out of here."
Yeah, get out.
Yeah. Did you see? So this was hilarious. I had this quote written down because I found this very funny. Kelvin Sampson, in the post game, was asked about. I don't know how to pronounce the kid on Houston's name. Dejan Giroux, I think. He's the guy who bit the Cincinnati player. So Sampson gets asked about in the post game. The Houston guy gets ejected. Sampson's asked, and he says, "I just watched the film. I watched it 3 times to make sure I was right, too. If you watch it once, you might be wrong. I watched it twice. I watched it 3 times. I had my staff look at it. There was no bite." And then 24 hours later, he says, "My initial statements in Saturday's postgame press conference were based on the video from an early part of that scrum. After further reviews from multiple angles, it can clearly be seen that Dejan Giroux bit Mamadou Diarra." So in 24 hours, he said, "I watched it 3 times. I'm smarter than all of you. You're idiots. There was no bite." And then, but just the words he used in his like apology statement were hilarious to me. It's like pretty clear. He's just like reading from a sheet. "After further reviews from multiple angles, it can clearly be seen that Dejan Giroux bit Mamadou Diarra."
But what's even the point of that, right? Like
No.
he knows that he's never going to admit that, and now he has to, like in a written out statement, so it really has no weight to it. So it's kind of like just leave it alone.
I know.
He's a biter,
Yeah.
and it is what it is. It's kind of like in rap music, when you find out like Drake's been stealing lines from other people, and you're like, oh, he's a biter. It's like, oh,
There you
whatever.
go.
You're like,
Yeah.
whatever, just let it be. You know what I mean? It's fine. No one cares. Also, I had to point out Tulsa, first time they've beat 2 ranked opponents at home since 1968, 1969. The race is 69.
Oh, wow.
Frank Haith, he's
Wow,
done it.
look at
Yes,
that.
There you go.
Congrats, Tulsa.
Stat of the day.
I have 2 shout outs I want to give. One, Pat Connaughton.
Dunk contest.
He's in the dunk contest.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike Bray's back.
Mike Bray was at the All-Star – or no, he was at the finals.
He was at the finals
game.
yeah.
He'll be at
in
the
Toronto.
All-Star
He's going to be at the All-Star game.
In Chicago? From
Mike
South
Bray
Bend? That's
dressed
an
up
easy
like
drive.
Shaq with the big camcorder
Yes.
and the beanie on his head.
And the sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
Yeah.
The Ali G sunglasses.
Shazam 2 coming out. Mike Bray's in it. He's got a Kango hat on backwards.
And his shirt off, just inexplicably.
Absolutely. And a Maui shirt still on.
In Chicago in February. He's just got a Maui Gym shirt off. Oh, my God. It is in Chicago. He's 100% going to be there.
No. It's 40 minutes or whatever
It's
it
in
is.
Chicago.
Yeah. 20
Oh,
minutes.
he is 100% going to be there.
Yeah, of course.
I was just joking.
No,
the joke is over.
Yeah,
it's time
no
to get
joke.
serious.
He will
Mike
be
Bray
there.
will be there.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to Damian Lillard too. Have you seen this? Have
He's
you
amazing.
heard about this?
Yes, he's amazing.
Oh my God.
The
this
MVP.
guy. Last 6 games, 48.8 points, 10.2 assists, 7.2 rebounds, and Portland is 5-1 in those 6 games.
And for people that forgot, this man basically ended Oklahoma City's team last year. Like he hit a 3 and then waved goodbye to them,
my
and their whole
God.
team blew up. And then again, they made it to the conference finals last year. What's funny to me about Portland is that no one is talking about the fact that Carmelo Anthony could go to Portland, Portland could win a title, and Carmelo could win a title on the West Coast before LeBron James.
Do you think Portland's winning the title
I think they have a chance.
this year?
They have a chance.
Oh, I will. If Damian Lillard averages 48.8 points,
They're the 8
10.2
seed.
assists.
They come in as the 8 seed. They
7.2
beat the
rebounds.
Lakers as the 1 seed
I like
and
it.
make a run.
They do the
Yeah, but they did in 07. What the Warriors
Yeah.
did in 07 to the Mavericks.
Yeah, there you go.
Dame Lillard.
And we all famously remember the Warriors winning the title that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly what the Warriors did. Just do all
Baron Davis and the Warriors went right to a title. It was awesome.
march to the title.
Jason
Just,
Richardson.
just
they loved
follow
it.
that blueprint that was very clearly established in 07 by Baron Davis dunking on Karolinko. Anything else before we go?
Oh, that's it. No, I'm excited to come
That's
back.
it. We crapped all over college basketball, but I don't know.
love
I
it.
felt like coming into tonight, we I don't know. I had a lot of people texting me like, now what do I like? Get me up to speed. A lot of my football friends. That
Well,
don't
people
watch me, like, get me up
expect you to
speed. I was
have
like,
the
maybe
right
we should do a show like this,
or at least
and
something
then-
going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just being honest. I mean,
Mhm.
it's not great, but the tournament is coming up in a month, and that'll be fun.
Are you excited that football is over? I feel like Andy Reid, this whole it kind of feels like Virginia in the NFL a little bit, where it's like, now that we're
Yeah.
done, what's next? You know, it's kind of like in golf, like when Phil Mickelson wins a major, it's like,
Well,
well,
it's
who's
funny,
next on the list?
You bring up Virginia. You bring up the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. I think I said it before. I think I'm cheering for Dayton.
Mhm.
I'm throwing a lot of hooks out there, and hopefully one of these takes.
Yes.
I'm cheering for Dayton to win the title.
Mhm.
Obviously cheering for Ohio State, but take that out of the picture. I'm cheering for Dayton to win the title. They're my favorite non-Ohio State team. But I think Kansas is going to win it because I think the Chiefs win. Now Kansas is going to win. They're going to do the FBI. We're going to have the state of
It's
Kansas.
huge for the state of Kansas.
The state of
Kansas
Kansas.
is so excited right now.
As we know last night, the state of Kansas with the big win. And Kansas is going to win. And we had Gods playing last year with Virginia. We're going to have Rudds playing this year with Kansas. Paul Rudd is getting 2 titles, Tate.
Congratulations,
my
Paul
prediction.
Rudd. You
Yeah.
finally
It's
done
Rudd's
it.
plan.
Yeah, it's Rudd's plan.
We're and the meme is going to hit a critical mass of him saying, "Who would have thought? Look at us." Someone make this meme now. All you memers out there,
Yes.
get Paul Rudd. He's wearing a Chiefs hat,
Mm-hmm.
and he's saying, "Who would have thought? Look at us." And then
Mhm.
it cuts to Paul Rudd wearing a Kansas hat, a Jayhawks hat, and he's
Mhm.
like, "Not me." And then they're talking to each other.
Yes. And it's great
And-
for
and
the
it's
one
a-
state of Kansas.
And it's a build into the one show he had on Netflix where he was playing like 2 of the same. Oh my
yeah,
god,
Yeah.
my mind's blown.
Yeah.
My
Living
mind's
with
blown.
yourself.
Living with yourself.
And then it pans up to the sky, and it's just Paul Rudd and he winks. And then it's just the outline of the state of Kansas. Poor Missouri. I kept thinking, like, what if it was Indianapolis, Ohio? Like, if
Yeah.
like, I can't believe it just was so good.
Yeah.
What
it
a
was
time.
very, very good.
Congratulations. Super Bowl live.
All right, that's the show. We'll be back on Friday. I think we're going to have our first guest. We're supposed to. I don't want to say who it is because then I don't want people to be mad at him or her for canceling.
He's an MVP.
Or hers and she's an MVP. Don't give it away.
You're right.
Don't give it away.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna hopefully have a guest on for Friday. And we're gonna look into the for all the pessimism and cynicism we had on today's show. Saturday, Tate, is going to be a ton of fun.
It's Redemption Day.
Big rivalry weekend. Ton of great games coming up in college basketball. So we'll probably talk about.
You don't have to watch Carolina Duke this year. Just let it go.
No.
Just let it go.
We will preview some of those because it's going to be Saturday's going to be an awesome day. It should be the best day of college basketball.
We'll watch
all
games
season,
together
so.
and we'll give the full report.
Yeah.
We'll know
Yeah.
more.
So we'll be back Friday. See you guys.
For the best access, perspective, and personalities in all of sports, follow us at Fox Sports on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.